zombies.
Ladies and gentlemen, death stalks the land. Death also stalks death, oddly enough, on this eve, because two competing necromancer schools have decided that the other one existing is just too much. This town ain't big enough for this many necromancers. So, it's undead versus undead across this ancient land ripe with necromantic energy, with plenty of fresh corpses within the earth. In the centre we have this cemetery area. Over here we have a very special grave, and on this side we have a tiny little mausoleum crypt. So, because it's all about proving necromantic supremacy, the aim of the game is for each side to summon as much as possible throughout the game. Whichever side finishes at the end of turn 5 with the most wounds on the table will be victorious. And to that end, each side starts off with 2 necromancers and only 1 other unit. No summoning may be attempted unless the necromancer is within 6 inches of one of these areas. So this whole graveyard cemetery area, if you're within 6 inches of that, you gain the ability to summon zombies and skeletons. So not very good, but it's a very big area, so you don't need to put yourself at risk to be close to that. These areas over here, so that little grave there, and this one over here, this crypt, if you're within 6 inches of those, then you unlock the ability to summon one of your 3 chosen very powerful units that we selected prior to the battle, and we'll go through those when we discuss the army selections. So let's head over first of all to Remington's Razors of the Nighthaunt School. So what have we got?
So we've got an acolyte of the Nighthaunt School here, and he is starting off very close to that mausoleum, and he's hoping to bring in some special troops there. We've got some Vargeist and Crypt Horrors and Crypt Halls, Ghouls even, and obviously I've got some Graveguard as well, might come into it. If he gets there, and if he's able to summon them, that is. And over here, I was going to say we have the Witchfinder General, but that is Andy himself. So this is the Nighthaunt Master, and he's going to play it safe and summon a load of skeletons and zombies. And I do have a plethora of them waiting to come on, biting, chomping at the bit to get into Andy's troops. And because they're Nighthaunt, they start off with some Hex Wraiths over here. And they have in their sights Andy's Witchfinder over there. And they're going to try and hopefully take him out if possible before he can start to do his dirty deed.
And from the Death Rattle School, approaching from the other side of the battlefield, we have Andy's Acolytes. So first of all, we have Nigel the Necromancer, who is sitting down here, very close to this grave area, opposite the Hex Wraiths. So he's hoping to summon some elite troops from there. And we have to go quite a long way to find the rest of my forces, because I haven't put anything in the centre. So I'm not worried about summoning the basic troops, it seems. I've got 5 Black Knights here, being from the Death Rattle School. That enables them to come along. So they're somewhat protecting this Necromancer, Boris the Necromancer, who is on that hill, close to this little mausoleum. So he's going to be in direct competition with that Necromancer there. So that's going to be an interesting duel, because of course they'll be able to attempt to dispel each other's summoning. So, very little starting off on the table. It could be the shortest game ever if the Necromancers conspire to get themselves killed early on, or if they successfully start summoning, it could be the longest game ever. So at this stage we just don't know. We're going to have the live roll for the first turn very shortly though.
It is Serpentine of the Nighthaunt clan. So we will be raising skeletons and zombies, and I will defeat Andy 2d6 with the sheer vast numbers of my undead horde.
Remington's razors will not know what hit them. When my undead legions spring forth from the ground and slaughter him. So here we go for the first crack at battle round number 1.
Remington! Yes.
It's a 6, so that means you're going first. Rem's razors. Here we go. Okay, turn 1 for Remington's razors. As you can see over here, the Hex Wraiths have moved in the direction of this Necromancer. So he could be toast very, very shortly, which would be very unfortunate for him, because he's not going to have a chance to summon anything yet. And the ploy of setting up a Necromancer in the central area, so that he could then summon a unit immediately from being close enough to it, has paid off, because he's got 10 skeletons in play near to the Black Knights. And then over there, that Necromancer just moved a little bit closer to that mausoleum, so in turn 2 he'll be ripe to summon things. So, quite uneventful, but it's going to get very spicy soon, I think. So, the other undead turn 1. The 2 Necromancers both attempted an Arcane Bolt. This one put a wound onto the Hex Wraiths, and then he moved up towards that summoning region. And this one removed a skeleton from play, killed one of them, exploded him into pieces, and then he moved towards this summoning region. The Black Knights moved up as well and attempted to charge that Necromancer over there, but couldn't roll high enough. So we're going to roll to see who's going to go first in the second battle round now. This could be quite important.
Remington!
It's a 6, and it's also a 6. Time for a re-roll. A 6 again.
Remington!
It's only a 3. Okay, Andy's Acolytes turn 2. Getting first crack at this turn meant I was actually able to protect this Necromancer by successfully summoning Crypt Horrors over here. And as you can see, they charged into the Hex Wraiths and butchered them. Well, not so much butchering, because at least there's one left, so only partially butchered, and I'm not sure how much flesh they actually have for it to be considered butchering. There probably has to be some meat involved, at least. Over on this side, this Necromancer also summoned 3 Crypt Horrors successfully, requiring a roll of a 6, so it's not that difficult. And they take aim at the skeletons, but they didn't roll high enough to charge them in this turn. And the Black Knights, who were closing in on the Necromancer, went in for the kill. But they only managed to put a couple of wounds on him, and that was actually the horses that did that. The Knights themselves completely failed their rolls, so that Necromancer is still alive, and he will be able to cast some spells in a minute. But I have moved my Necromancer to look at him, so that I will be able to attempt to dispel anything he wants to cast, which is a very important thing, because I'd positioned my Necromancer in the previous turn so that they weren't looking at each other, so whoever went first had the advantage of being able to go for a summon without the enemy's ability to dispel it. So I was confident in my ability to roll higher than Mr. Remington because of his skull dice, so that's why I positioned him there, although statistically it was 50-50. So, moving on to Rem's Razors, turn 2. So Remington's Razors, turn 2. The Hex Wraith that survived this combat has decided to fly away, over here, and that's a bit of a recurring theme, because over on this side, the Necromancer decided he'd prolong his existence for at least another turn and move away from these guys. That's after he failed to summon anything, because it was dispelled by my Necromancer. And then over here, his second Necromancer summoned another 10 skeletons successfully, and both of them managed to charge into these Crypt Horrors. And as a result of that, as you can see, 1 Crypt Horror is dead, and 4 skeletons are dead. So no battle shot required, because the Undead have Bravery 10, so not enough models have been removed to actually warrant a battle shock test at all. So now we're going to have the roll off to see who's going first in battle round number 3. So, here we go. Oh, it's a 6.
Remington!
And a 2, so it's going to be Andy's Acolytes going first again. Andy's Acolytes turn 3, and as you can see, a Vargulf has been summoned into play by this Necromancer here. And the Crypt Horrors moved up next to it and attempted some charges, but we couldn't quite make it into that final Hex Wraith over there. Over here, the Black Knights charged back into the Necromancer, and they finished him off, so he is officially toast. Wow. My Necromancer here managed to summon some more Black Knights onto the table, but they failed their charge into the skeletons, so the Cryptoras were left on their own. As a result, they took a point of damage, but they did manage to kill 4 back, so no need for any battle shock. And it's going to be over to Rem's Razors. Not all that eventful yet, but the numbers are stacking up. But the Razors have lost a Necromancer, so not looking good for them right now. So a very uneventful third battle round for Remington's Razors, because the one remaining Necromancer failed his roll to bring in some more skeletons. So that was quite unfortunate. Over in the only combat, the skeletons did manage to kill off a Cryptora, and when his buddy struck back he couldn't deal any damage at all. Not much action at all in that turn. We're going to see who's going to go first in the 4th battle round now. Right here, so here we go. It's a 5.
That's a 6, a 6, a 6, and a 5 you've rolled.
I think
Remington!
It's only a 2. So it's going to be Andy's Acolytes going first again. Andy's Acolytes turn 4. And as you can see, the Vargulf has made the voyage from over here, flew into the cemetery, and then charged with a very high roll into the Necromancer. Over here, in this fight here, which was aided by 5 of the Black Knights that killed the Necromancer, charging into the skeletons. These ones rolled a double 1 for their charge though, so they didn't make it in there. But these ones came in, killed 4 skeletons. Cryptora killed 2 from that unit, and when they struck back they didn't do a whole lot of anything. So still no battle shock required because they're undead and they haven't taken enough casualties yet. But Remington's Razors are looking awfully thin on the ground at the moment. So with their next turn they really need to summon something while this Necromancer clings to life. Because at the hands of that Vargulf he took 4 wounds, so he's down to his last. He's going to maybe get one more chance to summon something, and then they're going to have to do some killing to claw this one back. So Remington's Razors turn 4. The Hexwraith that was lingering around here, you can see he's charged off over there into my Necromancer, and he's been replaced in this vicinity here with 10 zombies that he just rolled enough, just channeled enough magic to bring 10 zombies into the world, but they failed to charge the Vargulf, who the Necromancer has wisely run away from, so he didn't get absolutely smushed. And also, another Necromancer from the school has joined in the fray. He was a little bit late to the party, but that was a rule that we did envision at the start, but we forgot to mention it, how if you lose one of your Necromancers, then another one can come in at the start of the turn on a 5+ from their table edge. Obviously, since he was right at the edge, he wasn't close enough to do any summoning, so in the last turn he should be able to, because he's got just within range of that wall, unless he gets killed by, let's say, a Vargulf, but we shall see. And in this big combat down here, the skeletons took some wounds off the Cryptora, so he's down to his last wound, and I don't think any skeletons actually died as a result of all that, did they?
1.
1 skeleton. So not very good rolling there from the undead. And over there, the Hexwraith did 2 damage to the Necromancer. I believe that was Boris the Necromancer. And his staff didn't do anything back to the Hexwraith, obviously. So now we're going to have a roll off to see who is going to go first in the final battle round. So here we go.
Oh my god. Alright, Remington. Shit.
The winds of the death magic are certainly on the side of Andy's Acolytes, aren't they?
Every round. How is that possible?
Okay, Andy's Acolytes turn 5, and it was quite crazy and a bit of a bloodbath because several units are in play now. So there's been quite a lot of combat going on. So first things first, the Vargulf charged into the Necromancer over there. The Black Knights charged into this Necromancer. And the Cryptoras successfully charged into the zombie unit. And all the combat that took place, the results of it, were as follows. Zombies, 5 dead, which means they will need a battle shock test in a minute. The skeletons up there lost quite a few, both those units, to the Black Knights and the Cryptoras. The Vargulf got the Necromancer down to 1 wound, with exactly the same dice rolling that he used to get that Necromancer down to 1 wound. So he couldn't quite finish him off. And speaking of this Necromancer, the Black Knights did finish him off with ease. It's probably the horses that did it. The horses tend to do more damage than the actual knights in my experience. Over there, the Necromancer survived against the Hex Wraith. So we're going to move on to this zombie battle shock. If they're all 6, then one more will disappear.
No.
It's a 5, so nope. That's just adding up to 10, which is their bravery. So they're going to be fine. And now we're going to move on to the final turn of the game, which is going to be Remington's Razors. And he has 1 Necromancer in range, so he needs to probably try and summon zombies and get a huge roll and get 20 of them in play.
See what I get?
Let's just see what he's going to do right now.
It's a 9, so I've rolled 20 zombies come up.
Right, so as a result of that dice roll, 20 zombies come in, which could tip the game in his favour, actually, looking at the wound total on the table. He's going to have to do some killing, though, I imagine, to turn it decisively. So we'll get back to you with the result of that shortly. Well, it's the end of Remington's Razors turn 5, and thus the end of the game. We worked out that they were 11 wounds down after the summoning phase, in which they summoned 20 zombies, which was quite handy, because the Necromancer was still alive and able to do that. Some more skeletons popped up as well, as they do when you have a banner. So with all that, they were 11 wounds down on my forces. So they needed a swing of 11 wounds during the combat phase, with all the various combats. And as you can see, with the pile of skeletons and zombies all over the place, and dead Necromancer up there, they didn't manage it. They took massed casualties, and couldn't dish it out back to the more elite troops that I've been able to summon throughout the game. So that means that Andy's acolytes reign supreme on the battlefield on this day. They've proven the supremacy of their necromancy school. So what do you think of that scenario? I think that's the best way to do summoning, personally.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Just starting basic and slowly building up. It's a lot less of a head screw up when you don't have too many models to begin with. Yeah, real fun scenario that. I really like using Undead. It's the first time I've used them, so that was a lot of fun. It really came down to the wire here, and I got him down to just 2 wounds, and I just couldn't quite finish him off. Skeletons held up really well, and if it wasn't for this Vargolf, I could have just kept summoning zombies, skeletons, and perhaps won the game. The last turn, perhaps I should have just pulled all my figures out of combat. But when I rolled the d6 to bring these guys back, I rolled a 1. So it meant I had to just try and fight something. And Bloodlust got to me and actually killed 2 of them guys. So got him down to 1 wound, I think, or 2 wounds. But the quality prevailed over quantity in the end. But yeah, good fun that.
Right at the end, it's a really interesting aspect of the scenario. Whether you should be summoning the elite stuff that doesn't have that many wounds, or whether you should be going for things like zombies, where it's quite easy to get a roll that brings you 20 of them. You only need 8 to get 20 zombies. So that's just 20 wounds piled onto the table in one go. Whereas summoning Crypt Horrors and Black Knights isn't bringing you anywhere near that number of wounds.
Yeah, Black Knights aren't as good as I thought they were going to be.
They're not when they don't have the likes of the vampires' ability boosting them up like they have in previous games that we've had. So I think maybe a couple of things could have been different if you'd been able to have the first crack at summoning from this one, but I was able to get the first go at it. And over on this side as well, where I was able to bring those Crypt Horrors in to stop you charging my Necromancer with the Hex Wraiths.
Yeah, it was a last minute summoning job, but you got away with it. Over here, my Necromancer just couldn't quite... the Necromancer's over here. Just when he was about to summon some elite troops, you managed to stop his spell, which was crucial really, because he pretty much was killed after that without summoning anything. So
yeah, I think maybe the scenario needs a little bit of tweaking, but I think in general that's a really good idea to do it. Start off with minimal troops, and you have to be in certain locations competing against each other to be able to summon other things. The larger area for the weaker troops makes sense, because you're not putting yourself at as great a risk as you are on the flanks, where you have to be closer to the small area, which means you're vulnerable to attack as well.
So in the future, I'd like to try out my my Undead Horde. If you just bring the camera over here, you can see all the models I've actually not used yet. So I've got loads. I wouldn't mind battling your dwarves. That could be a lot of fun. Or maybe your Sigmarines. Because the dwarf war machines come ahead and destroy what you want. I'll just bring it back. So that could be a lot more fun than seeing ogres get blasted to smithereens.
He never got a chance to summon any of his Grape Guard here.
Yeah, and I've got ghouls here, and I've got more skeletons, and I've got a couple of vampires here. I've got a vampire lord, and I have Conrad von Karstein there, and I've also got a White King. I'd like to use all of them at some point, and also I've got some Vargeist over here that I'd realised you can't summon these. So next time I'll remember.
Because they are technically vampiric, so.
And I've got my
not summonable.
Converted ogre crypt horrors as well, which I was hoping to bring on, but I couldn't manage it.
Yeah, unfortunately, you never got the chance to bring in any elite troops because the one necromancer you had on the flank was scuppered. So I think anyone who thinks summoning in Age of Sigmar is overpowered really needs to be looking at playing scenarios like this. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, but if you theme the scenario around summoning rather than just having it being a way to unbalance the game, because if you start off with equal size armies and then one player is summoning, of course it does unbalance the game in some ways. So there are ways you can mitigate that just with the scenario, and I think that's what people need to look at if they have problems with the way summoning currently works. Andy's acolytes have claimed the lands for their own, these lands that are ripe with the fresh undead just beneath the earth. They now have my stamp of approval on them, and they're going to be coming over to the Andy's Acolytes Necromancer School. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks of course to all our wonderful patrons for making all of this possible, and we'll see you next time.
Lord, eat, brains to eat, brains, master, brains to eat.
I knew we would reign supreme over Baron von Remington.
You raise me up to fight against the zombies. You raise me up to fight against the horde. You raise me up to fight against the zombies. When you're playing vampire counts, you won't get bored when you start real small.